Hello, everyone. I think we can start the program now. Good evening to all of you, and thank you for being here today. So just a bit about UMANG, our program, which runs every month for last 3.5 years. So UMANG was created by like-minded medicos coming together for expanding their horizons beyond the limitations of professional learnings to start a different kind of CME, that is creative medical evolution, through various insightful, inspiring, and interactive online sessions by medicos on non-academic life skills. Across the entire medical spectrum, from medical residents and young doctors to senior-most doctors from public and private sector, doctors from all specialties have been part of this movement for last 3.5 years. So today is our 35th session, and I welcome all of you. So today's topic is tech-savvy parenting. And why have we chosen this topic? Because with growing internet use and advanced technology coming up at a speed that is difficult to match, we can see parents grappling with increased time their children are spending online. The worry is not only about increased screen time, but also that your child is exposed to a world, a virtual world, and is exposed to hazards like cyberbullying, sexual harassment, and mental health issues that are frequently seen in children. So let us hear it from the experts to understand this better. We have our panelists today. We have three of them today, Dr. Bhushan Shukla, Dr. Leena Khanzode, and Mr. Rajesh Kulkarni. I'll give a brief introduction for all of them. So Dr. Bhushan Shukla, he is a child and adolescent psychiatrist trained in Pune and in the UK, and has been practicing in Pune as a child psychiatrist for since 2000. He has done a workshop on No, Go, Tell to prevent child sexual abuse since 2000. This featured on Satyamev Jayate and was adopted by various NGOs and government agencies. He has a collaborative and advisory role in many schools and colleges, NGOs, probation service, family court, and police. He has also been a consultant on mental health issues in 4 movies and 2 plays. And he has co-authored a book called Basics of Sex, Gender, and Sexuality. So welcome, Dr. Bhushan. And Dr. Leena Khanzode, she's a child and adolescent psychiatrist who has trained from Sion Hospital in general psychiatry. And then she moved to California. She is practicing as an adjunct lecturer in Stanford University School of Medicine. Currently, she's a president of a non-profit organization, Tarika Foundation, whose mission is to create awareness of mental health in children and teens by conducting educational workshops and seminars for parents and teachers, youth mental health awareness events. Dr. Leena with her team also have a podcast series for parents and youth called Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, which is available on various Apple and Google podcasts. And there is a YouTube channel called Supporting the Whole Child. So welcome, Dr. Leena. And we have non-medico, Mr. Rajesh Kulkarni, who will add a lot of interesting information to the program today. He's a software engineer with about 25 years of experience in cybersecurity, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. Rajesh founded Kika, a cybersecurity company. Kika was acquired by Logic Monitor in 2019, which is again a cloud software American company that works on cybersecurity. Rajesh is currently Vice President of Engineering and General Manager of Logic Monitor, and he has a team of over 300 engineers with him. Welcome, Rajesh. So with this introduction, we can go ahead with the program. Can I give my first question to Leena? What is tech-savvy parenting? Can you please elaborate on this?
So thank you for the kind introduction. It's my absolute honor to be part of UMANG series. Kudos to Gauri for starting this 3.5 years ago. So, parenting itself is a heavy duty word that we all are experiencing more so, in the recent decades. And on top of that, with the advent of technology and the progress of technology, how that has kind of penetrated our lives, right, is slowly but steadily and hugely. And yeah, now we are in a digital age, raising digital age kids. So, I want to say there is no one definition or simple definition for tech savvy parenting. It is, the awareness that as a parent we need to first build that, you know the age and time, the digital age our kids are growing up is way different than where how our childhood was or how we were growing up and what we were exposed to. So first, having that awareness and some empathy about, like, oh, this is a whole different world for them than what it was for us, and then bridging that gap between, how we can be savvy with what world they are being exposed to, and how we can join them, in some of those new technical kind of era, or all the new nuances that it has brought in our lives. And then, of course, being in that authoritative role to be able to guide them to be safe online. So there's many layers to this. I don't think there is one simple definition, but it definitely, I put an acronym in the chat box about Savy. So S is for security and safety. So, we are always thinking about, oh, now we are exposed to this whole new world and there's so much information and content they are exposed to. How can we make sure they are safe? How can we make sure, they are not getting cyberbullied, or, we'll get into details of some of those kind of hazards of being on the technology platforms. Then, I'm going to go back to my cheat sheet. I love this Savvy acronym. So I was like, I was definitely going to bring this up so people remember. A is for we want to be aware of what apps, what platforms they are, having access to. What is the content that's comfortable as a parent for me to be okay with my child to be exposed to. We want to, of course, also have some boundaries around how much technology use they can be having. So what are some of the times when the technology, we want to create technology free zones, technology free times, like, no technology when we are eating family dinner together, in the bathroom, in the car ride. I mean, name it. We can, every family may have a slight different kind of opinion about that, but generally we want to also have an understanding of which various times is it okay to use it and when it's not, various locations, kind of similar to that. And then all of this actually, boundary setting and compliance to get that going from your child, really depends on your relationship with your child. So it really boils down finally to how well I'm connected with my child to expect some kind of compliance with any behavior, but even for technology, and how they can actually be open to listening to you, why there is some reasons why you have some of these boundaries. And so we'll, of course, talk more about that. But that's my long answer to your question about what tech savvy parenting means.
Thank you. Thanks. You'll need to unmute. We can't hear you. Shrutika, you're on mute.
Thanks, Leena, for that introduction. I think we are all in the same boat. As we are learning about it, and it's like a hands-on job. I think our next question is for Dr. Bhushan. We keep hearing about all these gory stories about due to indiscriminate use of internet by children and adolescents. So, what is the huge concern, and what kind of hazards we need to be aware of when we talk about internet use by children? What would you say? What are the biggest hazards?
So, Shrutika, to start with, I think we have to acknowledge that a very large number of kids actually handle internet quite all right. uh, of course, we come across the most difficult cases as practicing psychiatrists, but there is a vast normal world out there which is managing all right. And I think we have to be constantly mindful of that. Many times I have talked about internet as something that is comparable to food and diet. It is essential part of your life now. You can't get away from it. And there will always be some people who will probably eat too much or eat too little and be affected by that. So that is I think a better way to so that we can manage our diet better with its various components and combining it with exercise as well. So same thing for internet use and everything that goes with internet. I'm using internet as a very broad term. So there are clear dangers that we have seen over last 10 years, and they are increasing. They go in all directions. One is about safety, about meeting strangers who are interested in exploiting the kids. Second is harm from familiar people, which is bullying, which is happening with increasing frequency in the schools. There is a financial angle to it, children getting into financial transaction or getting blackmailed into financial transactions. So, and then there is that ubiquitous excessive use which distracts people, kids, from doing what they really need to be doing at that point of time. And then all the emotional difficulties that we see, that particularly children who are spending a lot of time on social media, particularly image-driven social media, where it is causing trouble with their self-image, their body image, and self-esteem as well. So that is the whole plethora of difficulties that we are seeing now. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks. So we'll go on to the next question. We are trying to at least cover all the questions so we can take some more discussion and some more questions from the chat box later. My third question is to Rajesh. Can you explain the personas in family and what assets are at risk in today's cyber world? So with some examples, so we get a better understanding of how can we keep children safe.
Okay. So sure. Actually, good question. So when we talk in context of today's discussion, we can talk about personas and mainly, two distinct personas or the users, I would say, and assets or the mediums which can be used to affect the personas. Okay. So the users are of two types in the cybersecurity world. We call, the users who actually own the device or who actually use somebody else's device or when the device is shared. Okay, so the assets fall into two categories. Okay, so are the users. Okay, so you are the owner of your own device or your device is shared. Okay, so these are the two different type of personas. For example, what happens is most of the kids will buy a phone or handheld device or a laptop and give it to their child. Okay, when they do it, risks are infinite to the child because the child is now exposed to the internet. And as Bhushan said, 90% or 99% of the world is doing okay. 1% of the world is at risk, but the risk could be serious. Okay, and another type of users where you have your phone and you give it to your toddler for playing to keep him engaged, keep him or her engaged, or sometimes you actually your family laptop, which is kind of lying on a table, which everyone uses, or your phone, which is accessible to your kids. They know the pin and they can use it. Okay, so these are the two different type of personas where they actually share their assets and they own the assets, and the assets are also mainly the devices or a shared asset like a network, which is a home Wi-Fi network or a hotspot or Ethernet. Okay, different type of personas have different risks. So these two type of personas, I would say, the first persona where they own their devices is a different type of a risk. And where the asset is shared, that risk is again a different type of risk. Purely from the material angle, the second persona has more risk because the asset is shared, at least between, say, a father and a son. Maybe the son knows the pin of the father's phone, or the password of the laptop, which is everyone uses in the family, which is pretty common. Uh, Here, the risks are more because more people are involved, more users are involved, and assets are more valuable. For example, I will give you an example which was without disclosing the names. It was recently it was published in one of the articles or a blog of a broker where a child or son of a uh, trader erroneously punched a trade uh, into his mobile trading app, uh, and he actually shorted or sold 550 lots of HDFC Bank's future instead of 550 shares. So it is actually 550 into 550, and that the person incurred actually a loss of about 89 lakh rupees. Just such type of serious assets or such type of serious losses can happen in a flash of within few minutes. Okay, so these are some of the risks we incur, or when sometimes your laptop is shared, you somebody can log in quickly to your laptop. Your son or his friends can quickly log into the laptop, accidentally, erroneously, or intentionally. Sometimes things can go really, really bad. And as a cyber security practitioner or as a investigator in some of the cases, we have seen these type of things have happened. So there are measures that have to be taken. And we will talk more about it in our subsequent questions. And there are technical aspects to it, which probably can be taken into account and should be taken into account to protect our assets and the people who use those assets.
Number of assets, a number of gadgets in the house is also now with everybody having a phone and a tablet and a laptop into 4 or 5 people. So the number of available gadgets at home is troublesome. Shrutika, please.
Dr. Bhushan, my next question is to you. It seems physical parenting or in the physical world, physical safety of our children comes very naturally to us. But how do we transfer it to digital safety? And what would you say are the red flag signs that parents should be aware of to know that whether their children are indulging in any risky behavior? What would you say?
Shrutika, that's a very, very good question. And what I mean by that, it's a very difficult one to answer. Because there is a constant battle going on between personal freedom, curiosity, and safety. And these two are literally in opposite direction to each other. You can have a system which is completely safe, but it will eliminate a lot of connections and positive part and innovation and curiosity for your child. You can let your child be completely loose on the internet without any supervision at all, and then their security is seriously at risk. So I think we all should do what Gautam Buddha's father did after hearing the prophecy that he'll become a monk after seeing the tragedy in the world, is that he got him till adulthood fairly safely and protected his heart till that point. And then as an adult, Gautama could, Siddharth could look at all the things, experience it, and then chose to become Gautama the Buddha. So I think in the same way, the younger the child, more safety is needed. And again, taking a leaf from what we already know, what as parents, instinctively, what we are already good at, is protecting our children from strangers, protecting our children from the total time they are exposed to something that could be dangerous, and protecting children from going to places. So physically, we know that we won't send them to X, Y, and Z place. And the same works on internet as well. That each app, each chat, each discussion board, each social media app is a place. And that is where I have to put clear understanding there, clear restrictions there, depending on the age, maturity, and safety profile of the child also, and then take it ahead from there. So using our old instinct in the new world is possible, provided we learn to look at the new world from the same angle.
More deeper.
Wonderfully explained. My next question is to Lena. How much is permissible internet use on a daily basis, and how can we be, as parents, good role models for children regarding technology use?
So, there is certainly recommendations, and then we, of course, see it doesn't quite translate in the real world. But I think based on the collaboration between Common Sense Media, which is one of the really gold standard organizations that has done some research and has come up with some appropriate recommendations regarding screen time, and American Pediatric Association, they have really, divided like the recommended healthy screen time for different age groups. So 0 to 18 months, they say do not expose your child to any kind of screen. If once in a while you're doing a family call or a video call and your grandparents or parents want to see the kid, it's fine. You can, do that momentary, a couple minutes of exposure to the screen for 0 to 18 months. Then 2 to 5 years, they say maybe an hour at the most. And that also, if you're kind of engaging them with some educational content, it's not just like, oh, you're watching something fun, I mean, they at that age they are not able to really understand what's really causing too much fun, but more of like, okay, if you're teaching them colors and shapes or whatever, if there's a educational content in the mix there. For 6 to 12-year-olds, they say again, no more than 1 to 2 hours. And then for 13 and above, it's actually also recommended no more than 2 hours, which is a very difficult one to navigate. I think you can probably, I personally saw that like, okay, till age 10, I was able to, maybe follow these recommendations. Till 12, I was able to stretch it. I remember my daughter was in 8th grade, end of 12th, 12th year and stepping into 13. And she was like, I want an Instagram account. And she actually created a PowerPoint presentation to convince me and my husband, and very beautifully put pros and cons of like, I know what are the dangers, how I will be responsible. But, every family has to decide that what's right for your child, if your child is ready for that type of interaction on the social media. So we were of the opinion that we want her to be waiting for another year before she could get the Instagram account. So you know whether or not they are on social media, the internet platform is vast. There are different ways they can be on the internet, whether they are watching a show, whether they are using it for homework. I mean, so the challenge that comes with older age group is that because their homework and their school and everything has become online. And then, so that restriction of 2 hours per day really is very hard to implement. Obviously their world of navigating with how they connect with their friends, how they plan things is all over internet. So they are also like texting and chatting, and that's their way of interacting. So we have to keep that in mind. I think as parents, the harsh reality of what being a tech savvy parent is that we have to work on finding that balance between healthy technology use and still using it to your advantage, right? I think like Dr. Shukla was mentioning that, there is no going away from like, oh, my child is going to stop using technology and go by my recommendations, and I'm going to put restrictions, and their phone will shut down. I mean, sometimes we have to do that if you're not seeing your child kind of using it responsibly and appropriately. But I think the shift here is not so much like it has to be, I have to go by the books and it cannot be more than 2 hours. The shift is how I can teach them that healthy balance of using the technology, but at the same time, using it to a level where it's not encroaching upon your well-being. Right. And so that's the thing I think we can do as being a role model, because we have a more mature brain, and impulse control and all of that, that helps us allow to achieve that balance. But the more I can model that, the more I can, do that for my child, I have more say of that I can do it and I'll help you do it. right? I think as parents, we are always under the microscope, whether or not it's related to technology or any other behavior. So the kid is constantly learning more from what we are doing rather than what we are telling them. And so having a family media agreement, right? Like we all will put down our phones at X time in the evening and they will go on charging station. We have technology free times and zones. When we are sitting with friends and family, the devices go away. When we are having family dinner, the devices go away. If you need your device for playing music in the shower, which lot of these kids love to do, then how can we find an alternative way to do that, right? Rather than my daughter was like, I want to keep my phone because I use that alarm in the morning to wake up. I said, okay, I'll go and get you a traditional alarm. You can use that, and let's keep the device out of the room. So I think definitely talking about what seems to be a healthy balance that allows them to have enough sleep, that's not encroaching on their studying and academic performance, that's not leading to some of the perils of being on social media, of low self-esteem, anxiety, depression. Like, we want to watch out for all of those, and if we are seeing any red flags, we want to bring the balance back. And if the child is not able to do it themselves, we need to bring in some controls. So it's a delicate dance. I think we have to constantly kind of adjust and balance. But we can really do this if we are being responsible with our use, and if we all are following kind of the family media agreement that we come up with.
Thanks, Veena. My next question is for Dr. Kulkarni. Now, knowing that our children and teens are using our families' laptops and other gadgets, so what would you say would be the do's and the don'ts a family should set up?
Okay. So again, about shared devices. When I say shared devices, not necessarily everyone has their own device, but when you know somebody's credentials to log into a particular device, the device becomes shared. Especially the phones, are very, very sensitive, because phones are like, I would say life. That they're very sensitive and critical assets these days, because of the kind of apps that we install on them, such as the banking related app or office related app. Some are our personal messaging app, where so the risks are related to, so the risks are financial as well as personal. Okay, so as for and knowing somebody's phone's pin is as good as sharing the device. So when you use, so what are the best practices, or do's and don'ts is what you ask. Okay, so when you have your phone, use an app lock with for sensitive apps. When I say app lock, so I'm getting a little bit technical here. An app lock is an app that you can put on your sensitive apps and keep it authentication mode as biometric only, which means it can be opened using your Face ID or your biometric. Okay, so knowing the pin is of no use in such cases. Okay, so accidentally, nobody can open accidentally or inadvertently or knowingly. No one who knows your PIN, let it be your kid or your brother or your friend, may not be able to open it and access any sensitive app unless it is biometrically authenticated. So this is one of the best practice. Again, if you want to give your phone to your kid for some reason for a limited time, then you can use something called as screen pinning. In Android, it is called as pinning an app, or in iOS or Apple devices, it is called as guided access, where you can lock a particular app to your just the phone can play only one app in unless you unlock it, it won't allow any more app to open. So this is again, one practice that you can adopt. On other shared assets such as laptops, which are again, every kid has his own laptop at the same time. You have your laptop, and sometimes kids tend to know your passwords. So my recommendation here is, if at all you have to give your laptop for some reason, or you have a family laptop or a family computer that everyone uses, create different users for your children, and do not give them any administrative privileges, so that they can access only the content in their user profile. Uh, it is not very difficult to create a user. It's very simple on Windows or even on Mac devices. You can add a new user very quickly and say it is not an administrator. Just let it use it as a guest user, so that nobody will be able to install anything or access any sensitive information on your laptop. Okay. Uh, I would also recommend investing in good antivirus and keep your operating system up to date. So some of the good antivirus, though I'm not here to advocate any product or not advertise any product, but this is, I mean, people may give us, actionable inputs. So Norton 360-degree Deluxe or McAfee Total Protection are some of the good antivirus products that you can use, which, really protect, offer a lot of features such as content-based filtering or website blocking. You can also use parental control software, which probably I will talk more about, such as Studio or Bark or these type of softwares. Again, don't use your office laptops for personal use. This is, though, no matter how convenient it is, there are legal implications to it. You may not have read your appointment letter, whether you are a consultant or whether you are a permanent employee of a company. You may not have, but your laptop is your responsibility, and anything happens because of negligence can cause you dearly, and can put you in some legal suit. So do not ever use your office laptop for your personal use. And parental control, even for self, is not such a bad idea. Parental control softwares are great. I will talk more about it, so that you also inadvertently don't tend to open the content that your kids shouldn't be seeing. Otherwise, you are always in the dilemma. If I see, why come? If you see, why can't I? Your kid is going to argue that, and it is always a good practice. So I will talk more about the technical things, but these are some of the things that I talked about. Like app locks, screen pinning, then least privileged access to the kids on the shared assets. So these are some of the best practices probably we would recommend as cybersecurity professionals to all parents here. Make sense?
Okay,
We'll need a more detailed session on this because a lot of it goes supracortical. But yes, um, going to the next question, my question to Dr. Bhushan. How do we monitor children? So there is always that, don't you trust me? That look that they give you when you try to check onto them. So how do we monitor children while being transparent that I need to check, you're still a child, and without looking intrusive and mistrustful?
Again, see, these are all going to be very hairy matters, and each family will have to find out their own solution there. My take is that this will have to start very early. When the first screen is given to the child, or first time the child is given access, typically by 2 or 3 years, hopefully. Some give it much earlier. Then it has to be very clear that parents will have full access to what the child is doing. In fact, initially, we'll have to make it a point that child uses the screen only in public places. What I mean by public is a place in the house where anybody can see them, like living room or dining room. They cannot turn the screen away in such a way that nobody can see the screen, and they can't take it to the bedroom with them. So first is the privacy part, because the very fact that there is no privacy in the use itself directs the child to use it in a very specific way, which is a lot safer. So first part is privacy. Second is places where the screen can be used, which is again toilets, bedrooms with closed doors are a no-no. You are riding a two-wheeler, you can't be using your phone at the same time. And third is the total time that is allowed. So there have to be very clear gadget-free, screen-free times, and they have to be implemented very seriously right from day one. Say, for example, if the deal is that, and it should be that way, that 9 p.m. to say 7 a.m. is a screen-free time. Then at 9 p.m., the child has to, if they want, lock the phone and hand it over to the parent. And that is how it will have to be. Beyond, till a point, I think parents should have access to all the codes that open the phones. And beyond that, I think once children are 13 or 14, by that time, enough track record is established. You know how your child is and how they manage these things. Then you can go ahead and allow them what is their legitimate privacy. But it has to start with zero privacy, zero autonomy. It has to be given as a privilege. The most important part here is that children have to be educated very early on that though you are using the single screen, it has multiple uses. One part is the essential part which goes with education, what your school sends, what your tuition class sends, the videos they are supposed to watch. That is, we don't count that as screen time in. Second is your interaction with friends. The third is the entertainment that you derive from the screen. And fourth is specific stuff that you learn, which is extracurricular, but it is your curiosity subject and you look it up on the internet. And how much time to be put in each bucket is something that has to be predetermined and monitored. And that has to be taught to the children very early on. So putting all of these things early on is really important. You suddenly come down with rules when the kid is 15 and you have suddenly found out they were sending their nudes to somebody and a neighbor has contacted you telling that your kid is sending nudes to everybody. That's I think, locking the stable after the horse has bolted. So it has to start really early. Only then it can be effective.
Thanks. Lina, the next question is for Dr. Lina. Now, children are less and less outdoors and they're more indoors and into this internet gaming. So, how serious is this internet gaming disorder, and how should we recognize it, and what can be done about it? And you already said something about the family media contract, and does it help in such cases?
Yeah. So to just add on to what Dr. Shukla was saying, I think the analogy I like to make with parents when we are talking about setting a device contract is like when I when I'm feeling ready, my child is ready to start driving, or if they are ready to start cooking, don't I make an effort to make sure they have the rules around safety while driving? What happens if you cross the speed limit? You get a consequence for that. Similarly, if I'm letting my child to cook, I'm also making sure there is safety around how they use all the things they know the recipe of how to make it. So it's a similar thing when we are giving them a device or a contract. We want to give this as a privilege that comes with certain expectations, certain boundaries, certain safety kind of features that will allow them to use this appropriately. And then there are consequences to, okay, if there is a breach there, then there is going to be some action taken. So I think if we are setting it up like that, a lot of the times the conflict between parent and child can be already minimized, because we started with an agreement. We started that these are some of the things expected of you because of the age and stage of life you are at. And these are the family media agreements. We have all agreed: technology free zones, technology free times, blah, blah. We all will be at the device go to charging station at this time, from this time to this time. When it is time to sleep or time for family time, it's going to be away. So there is a family media agreement, and there is something called as a device contract that's a little bit separate, that's individualized for your child, where you're spelling those specific things that, like, okay, so let's sit down. And again, it doesn't need to be you're being authoritarian and you're saying, okay, it will be maximum 6 hours and you have to finish your everything in 6 hours of chatting, the social interaction, the homework, the watching a show or watching, something for entertainment. You can come up with a number, but you want the child to be able to also say, these are what, this is how much I feel, I think, and then negotiating and coming to a number that seems to be, again, appropriate and healthy, that's not compromising their well-being. And so, so I'm kind of just expanding to what a family media agreement and device contract would look like. And I can share some samples with you guys. I don't know how it's possible to get it to everybody, but maybe there is a way we can add it to the recording notes and have some links there for parents to look at what those look like as samples for you to, start that for your child. But in terms of, how to realize the kind of, the child has actually now given a lot of freedom, and now we are seeing a problem with that. So internet gaming disorder is a condition where, obviously you're seeing some obvious signs of the child is spending way too much time on their gaming. It's compromising into things like their sleep is being jeopardized. They're often, academic performance or grades are starting to decline. You can also see behavioral changes like lack of self-care or personal hygiene, because they are so into it. Their world is so narrow and restricted that nothing else matters. So that it's to that level. We understand these games particularly. All of the internet content is designed in a way that it stimulates the release of dopamine, this happy hormone in our brain, which kind of is very rewarding. It gives you that instant kick. It gives you that instant pleasure. And so if you are thinking about a video game, it's really 10 times more release of dopamine. Like it's because there is thrill, there is excitement. I'm winning the game and I'm beating my opponent, or if you're playing it with few people together or solo game, whatever that might be. But there is so much of that reward that you're getting from that you are addicted. You are feeling that's the only way I can feel joy and pleasure in my life. And that comes with a cost, that then everything else doesn't matter, because now this is my only thing. And so we see signs of, like I said, like lack of personal hygiene, self-care, grades declining, missing school, or having trouble with keeping up with there's enough sleep, and then you see irritability because they're not sleeping, maybe more anxiety, and so it can just take its life and can become a really bad condition. So when you are seeing any red flags of that already starting to happen, I would put controls. And in this stage where you're seeing there is almost like this addiction pattern that's been established, and we are seeing some consequences of that in the behavior, then digital detox is the step. Like you at that time, we are not going to, like, the analogy of, like, what Dr. Shukla was saying, like it's like, food. Like internet is like, I can go on an internet diet when I have self-control and self regulation skills. But if I have lost those, then I need to go in a detox mode. I need to just take a break, let my brain chemistry reset, and then slowly I can come back to making a healthy balance with the use again. So a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy approaches are used in treatment of internet gaming disorder. And again, the uh, skills of what we call as motivational interviewing. At the beginning, you are actually letting the child build that awareness and insight as to what went wrong here. What was my pre-baseline before I started into, getting into this gaming, and where I have come now, what I have lost, what are my reasons for not getting there again, what are my reasons to work towards a healthy balance, so I have that access to the game, but I'm also going to be vigilant about I'm not going to get sucked into it. So it's you need professional help, obviously, for that. But if you're seeing any early signs, I would execute more parental controls. Have a conversation with your child. Ask them what are they getting and what are they missing, because I think that is what often these kids lose the perspective on. You need to help them realize, so what like I think during the pandemic we were forced to just have virtual interactions, and it was so interesting. I saw so many of the patients or the kids I work with come back and say, I miss real life interaction with my friend. I wish I can go and meet them. And so when they were allowed to do that, they saw a whole different joy of that pleasure. That joy is way different than just meeting somebody on internet. So allowing them to explore that aspect of happiness and pleasure and releasing dopamine, other physical activities, allowing them to get that taste and say, okay, this was also fun, and this is not the only way to have fun, or this is the only way to feel happiness. So having that balance where we are giving them physical activity, outdoor activity, pleasures from that, social interactions and pleasures from that, and some of this. And so it's a hard one, but you can model that. You can continue to have conversations with that, push them a little bit, allow them to explore and come back and tell you. I think most of the times that works out.
Thank you. I think you've covered quite a lot of points. My next question is to Rajesh. My children are teenagers and they have their own laptops and mobile phones. What are some of the tools available to ensure cyber safety of these assets and safety of my children?
Okay. Uh, of course, there are parental controls uh, tools available exactly in this space, such as, again, I'm not here to advocate any company, but I will just name a few tools for convenience. Some tools like FamiSafe or Custodio or Bark are some of the popular parental control tools. And what can they do? Okay, and how it's up to the parents to execute the and actually administer the control, but it can actually do the content filtering so that you can actually categorize the content and allow, disallow type of actions can be taken, such as, you can disallow gambling, adult content, nudity, violence, or you can completely block dark web, the dark web access from a particular device. So this is called content-based filtering. You can also go at a website level and you can actually turn off certain websites, such as you can say, okay, I want you. It's okay to use YouTube, but it is not okay to use this TikTok. Both are video platforms, but you can go to that level and have those type of controls. You can go to the extent and be as intrusive as, have access to their messages and their voice call recordings. Okay, that is also possible. Now it's up to you whether you really want to do that. Then you can also access the browsing history, what type of websites my kid is browsing and what type of content he is engaged into. You can also access the location of your child, where my child is, whether he's in the school or whether he's not in the school, which part of town is he or she is. You can do that through this parental control apps. You can also do app level access control. You can also do screen time, which is, screen time enforcement. So that if you agree in your family agreement that, okay, after 9 p.m., nobody is supposed to access the phone, then you can actually enforce that policy and the screens will be blanked out by this software, parental control software. Or you can also say, okay, not more than 2 hours of gaming time on your mobile during the day. So after 24 hours, so all these things are possible. Very simple apps. Essentially, how these apps work is there's an administrative control that you have as your parent. So you install the app on your mobile, and it will be essentially, it can be installed on any iPhone or a Android device, okay, or even on a Windows laptop or a MacBook. Most of the parental control tools support all the platforms. Uh, and there is an administrative console which control is with you, and then it's up to you as a parent how much you want to administer. Okay, so this is one thing that I would highly recommend if you want to exert the control. Another thing which is most important is education. I hear most of the parents saying that, okay, my kid is savvy and he is smart and he can he knows the risks. He's so good at internet. Guys, I mean, come on, this is savvy doesn't mean wise. Okay, even after spending 25 years in the cybersecurity industry, we are required to take certain trainings in our company, and we have to finish those trainings in a stipulated time. So a lot of free content is available. I can post some links here on Udemy or Know Before. These are some of the websites where a lot of good content, and it is fun content. It is not like you have to read through it. These are some fun videos, some animation. So you should play it maybe on your smart TVs or on your phones, and as a family you can just sit down and learn what a phishing email looks like, how to identify it, how does a fake website look like, and how to protect yourself from it. What do you mean by hacking a camera into your phone, and how to identify it? This is not rocket science. These are some of the simple things that you can actually identify. Or how do you actually identify a phishing attack? How do they happen? This is interesting things, and for this people don't have to be engineers. It is for everyone to know, and a lot of free content is available. So I would encourage taking a look at that. Another thing, useful thing is, location sharing on iPhone or even on Android phones. You can actually use the apps like Find My Phone is an app on iPhone. On Google Maps, you can also share your location with a particular contact in your contact list for 3 days. So that you know where your child is, and it is useful not just for children, it is sometimes useful for us also. Okay, and it is a great safety. So these are some of the things that I would recommend. Also, one thing I would recommend is, when you give your child his or her own device, do not punch in your credit card or debit card for in-app purchases, such as iStore or Google. Uh, mm, such as Google Play or Amazon or food apps like Zomato. Don't punch in your card. If at all you have to give some kind of a wallet for your kid to pay through, such as in India now UPI is very prevalent. So if your kid goes, my son goes to take his classes. Sometimes he has to take a Uber, or sometimes he has to go and eat, and he needs a UPI app. Don't link your main account to the UPI app. What you can do is you can open a small UPI, a small bank account, or a small app that you can use where you can put in, some money, and you can and kid can use that, so that the financial damage can be uh, minimized, though it cannot be eliminated. So these are some of the tips. Again, not full blown, lot of things, but yeah, I think I covered most of it.
Thank you very much. I think
The next question.
if you could post some links in
I will.
the
I'll
chat box,
definitely.
I think that will be really
I'll do.
Thanks.
My next question is for Dr. Bhushan. What is the neurological basis of internet use, and is it similar to other addictions?
So I don't think we are right till the depth of it, not for other addictions and definitely not for internet. The different part here is that we are not taking any specific substance. So though the usual circuits typically pointing towards nucleus accumbens are activated, we still cannot say that this works exactly like any other substance. And why? Let's go back to the food analogy again, that everybody eats food and everybody doesn't become obese, right? So this is part of our natural behavior, what we look for. Most of the addictions that we talk about are substances which are not part of our natural diet. 100% population is not exposed to it. We are looking at something to which 100% population is exposed. It is visual, it is auditory, it's multisensory. It extends what is naturally evolutionary given quality to us, like socialization, like entertainment, like music, like showing off, like sex, like money. So, though it is very tempting to call it the next wave of addiction and it's like any other addiction, because it is part of our normal life and enhances certain parts, I think we are looking at something which is far more complicated.
So, going to the next question. My question is to Lena. What are the strategies to deal with internet use till the age of 12 and from 13 onwards? I think the strategies change because there is a sense of privacy. They want to guard their space, puberty, and developing personality.
Yeah, so I think we may have heard a little bit about this already, but until age 12, we certainly the kids listen to us more. They are not teens yet and having more like that attitude of wanting to be independent and more privacy. So like, I cannot reiterate what Dr. Shukla and I have been saying is when you first give the device, really have the agreement about how this, so you in the first 12 years you're setting the foundation for compliance, you're setting the foundation for trust between you and your child that they're using it in an appropriate way. And so until then there is more like compliance generally, and but definitely monitoring that, not taking that for granted because kids are younger and they listen to you is very important. The things really shift once they become teenagers, and then their way of interacting with other teens is through social media platforms. Now they have more homework, so there's just more and more interaction that they need to have through the internet. And so the balance is again where you are you know giving them the boundaries, you're giving them the freedom, but there is little kind of reminders of the restrictions about what goes away when this happens, what happens when this happens. You're already having that conversation. It really also depends on the maturity level of your child and how much you trust that they will be able to navigate the different kind of dangers that they can be exposed to. So, like I was giving my daughter's example earlier about I didn't feel comfortable giving her Instagram at age 12 and a half, 13. And I was very clear with her and I said, it's not about you. I trust you, but kids at your age are still not mature enough, and so it's more about them than you. That I feel like they may post something that could be getting you into trouble, or you may be impacted by. So having more candid, open conversations about every family has their own way of when they think their child might be somebody may be trusting their 12-year-old who's very mature and is showing signs of responsibility in other domains of life, where they are taking good making good decisions, things like that. So it's a little bit different from child to child, so that definitely needs to kind of come into the equation. But really allowing them to, once you have those parameters, then allowing them to explore. And then if you are seeing there is some, I'm kind of checking the history, maybe there is some concern about like, oh, my kid is now going on porn sites, or if I haven't blocked those, like if I've set it up, it may be safe, but if I have given them full freedom, I'm learning about some deviance there, then of course I need to retract, have a conversation, allow them to make responsible choices and decisions, make the good decisions. And then if they are not able to do, then I'm going to execute control and pull the strings back. So really, you're because you're really wanting them to learn to have that healthy balance of using it to the advantage and not getting impacted by it negatively. So the conversation with the teens continues to be an ongoing one. You are monitoring it, you are talking about it. I also like say that you have to be curious about the content they are consuming. Like, I'm not on TikTok, but my daughter, often shares TikTok videos, and I sit and I want to see what kind of stuff is getting posted on TikTok, what kind of stuff she's accessing on that, right? So being curious sometimes, and being non-judgmental and saying, okay, what's something so exciting? Why are you laughing? What are you laughing about? What video is this? Show me what's going on. So being curious, joining them, getting a little bit education about, what their world looks like, and then, if you have, comments or any corrections, then you can make it later. But really being curious and non-judgmental in the beginning is the way to really build that connection with your teen. And then you can share, okay, this is good, but then, I was not too sure about this other video you saw. Maybe that's not appropriate yet for you. You can then kind of help them,
Your
change.
offline relationship kind of reflects on your online how you connect with them. So if there is openness and collaboration and negotiation, probably they're more on board with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. Shrutika?
I mean, talking about children's rights, will you be able to tell us about the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act? And the other question related to it is, how do parents generate time to talk about difficult topics like cyberporn or cyberbullying? And are there any online resources where parents can acclimatize themselves or facilitate the discussion? Because quite difficult topics to talk. Parents do feel uncomfortable to talk about these issues.
Sorry, is this for me or for Rajesh?
Yeah, it's for you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about the discussion part first. I think the discussions have to start as early as possible. For example, for the no-go tell workshop that we devised for children to identify bad touch, the most important part is we should start that as early as 3 to 4 years of age. That is when children are absolutely able to identify certain things communicated back to their parents. So having this open discussion that what did you see on internet today? Did anything spook you? Was there anything interesting? And sharing some stuff that we have seen which was, spooky or not appropriate. For example, the other day my wife got a email with photograph of a letter which accused her of her computer being used for child pornography, and she has to report to the CBI or something immediately or call a certain number. Now, this is obviously a nonsense email, right? CBI is not going to send you email about this. They are going to come knocking on your door with handcuffs. So we showed it to our daughters and we told them that this is the kind of stuff that people get very scared by it. And then they call up that number and then all sorts of nonsense happens. Now, these are the educative moments for the family. And doing this regularly is important. As your children reach, say, 8 or 9 years of age, it's important to tell them that sometimes you will be sent stuff by your friends or something will appear on your screen unknowingly, which makes you feel uncomfortable. It may be related to nudity, it may be related to abuse, it may be related to violence. It could be anything that makes you feel very uncomfortable. Remember, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, you're just supposed to switch off the screen and tell me. So these simple conversations have to start early on. If you haven't had those conversations yet and your kids are already 15 and 16, it is still not late. Still having those conversations is important. Because there are a lot of time, we come across cases where kids get blackmailed. Their photographs are taken from social media, morphed into nudes, sent back to them, saying that unless you do X, Y, and Z, this photo will be sent to all your friends, etc., etc. So kids need to have a safe place to approach. And I don't see other than parents or teachers who's going to be that safe place. So starting these conversations early on with real life examples and alerting kids and keeping the doors of communication open is something that can keep us relatively safe.
My next
You
question.
mentioned about the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act.
I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough for that right now, so I don't think I can answer that question confidently.
So we'll take the next question for Rajesh. What are the best practices that I should follow to keep vigilance about cyber activity of my child without intruding his private space?
Okay. It's again hard, and there's very thin line between intrusion and being vigilant. Okay, though typically both don't necessarily go hand in hand. But I would still recommend from the technical perspective. Okay, parental control software is probably a best tool. Because it also gives you an ability to tune it and what to the level of controls that you really want to exercise. So that way you can talk to your children again, educate them why we are doing it, and then based on the need and their age, you can actually administer those controls. Education again is a very important aspect. As I said, Bhushan was saying, show there is a way just show a spam email or phishing email to them. Look how this email looks like. So these are some of the things that you should keep doing. Again, when you do a parental control type of a software on somebody's device, your child is going to feel restricted or being intruded into his private space. But that is the point when you want to do education and emphasis more on the education. Location sharing, as I said, okay, is again, very important and sometimes could be very handy. So these are again, some of the best practices that you can follow from the technology side. Again, what is right, what is wrong is very subjective and depends on and differs from, family to family. But these are the tools available. It's up to us how do we use it.
Thank you.
Next question is for Dr. Leena. Does delay in introduction to social media help in minimizing the problem? And does structuring to the day, like having diverse, meaningful activities through the day, is it very important to avoid things?
Yes, I think, as we are getting more data about how there has been a negative impact of social media more and more in the last decade, we are learning more. There's a lot of interesting research coming out telling us there has been a rise in anxiety, eating disorders, disordered eating patterns, depression, because of social media use. I think having this conversation with your kids that what seems like perfect on the social media that people post is very deceptive. It's not what really is going on in their real life, right? Like we can use filters, we can post things, and nobody really puts stuff that's like really happening in their real life. Everybody curates it and puts a perfect picture of themselves. So there's a constant reminder of I'm not pretty enough, I'm not handsome enough, I'm not wealthy enough. People post their pictures of vacations, they post their achievements and their awards. I mean, all good stuff, but it's really curated, and the level of maturity for kids at that age is not there, where they are not going to just take it with a grain of salt. It's really it takes a toll on them in terms of feeling inferior to others. That comparison that you tend to do at that age is very real, and it's a constant reminder that I'm less in terms of beauty, I'm less in terms of wealth, I'm less in terms of privileges or whatever that might be. And that is definitely playing into a lot of low self-esteem. The recent data also talks about, even though we are also connected online so much, there is a lot of loneliness kids are reporting when they did a survey. So, really helping them understand that in real life interactions as human beings, as social beings, is what really, really helps us to not feel lonely helps us to feel more connected and be happy in a true sense. And definitely having that balance, like if my child is just only interacting with friends online and not going to birthday parties or hanging out with their friends or doing stuff with them, that's a red flag, right? I want to make them go, so they can, have that taste of, oh, this interaction was so much more fun and made me feel so much more connected. So of course, having different activities that are structured, so there is a routine that forces you to have technology free time. It forces you to explore learning, and joy in other aspects of your life really helps. So yes, and I think, like we started this comment, like 90% of kids do fine. Like not every kid is impacted by the social media negatively, but we are definitely seeing there is a negative impact more and more as we are seeing that, it is being researched now, and we are seeing that it's more than we thought. And so really depends again on your child's maturity, how much you are involved in that, what conversations you're having. Often it's not comfortable for kids to have parents be their friends on the same social media platform, because it's just an uncomfortable dynamic as a teenager, and we need to respect that. So I would say, uncle or a friend or somebody who I trust can be their friend, and they can give me a little feedback about what, if they're seeing any inappropriate posting or inappropriate interaction. So I can still be involved and be vigilant, but I also want to give them the freedom, and so I can use my other resources to kind of monitor their social media use, and if there is any correction that needs to happen, we talk about that. And really important again also to talk about the whole concept of digital footprint, right? When you and I were growing up, if I did an embarrassing thing in the school, people talked about it for for a day. The next day I go to school, people have forgotten about it, and it was not a problem. But when I, somebody posts that video of me being embarrassed and I did something silly or stupid, and it's constantly on the platform, and everybody's looking at it and making comments about it, or constantly making me remind about my embarrassment, I am more impacted. So that digital footprint is a real thing. I mean, it can really impact negatively in many different ways, but one of the things that we need to also teach them about using social media responsibly is, like, what is your digital citizenship here? Like, how can you be kind and compassionate to others? How can you be responsible about what you are posting, how that's actually helping others versus hurting others? So there is a lot of that you have to kind of continue to monitor and have conversations around.
Thank you, Lina. Uh, while we are talking to you, can you please elaborate on the Child Protection, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act? Because it's a US Act, so maybe you'll be able to throw some light.
Yes. So, I haven't brushed my knowledge on it recently, so I'll do my best.
Understanding.
Yeah. So I think the idea behind that is that, um, we want to honor the privacy, of the child. So I think there are layers to it. As a parent, I want to honor that, even though I feel like I'm the parent, and I should have access to all of their things. I mean, I don't know how it is in India. Here, even for medical care, once you become 13, I cannot access my daughter's chart or medical online, to look at her labs or what conversation she's having with her pediatricians. So there is a lot of emphasis of autonomy and privacy here once you become a teenager. And the idea is to really get them ready for the real world. So that's the kind of the thinking here, that, if you allow them to make decisions independently earlier on, then you are setting them up to be independent after 18. So once they leave home for college at 18, you want them to be ready for that adulthood. Based on one of the conferences I recently attended, they did bring COPA in the context of, when there is predators online who are trying to encroach your child's, privacy, and posting inappropriate stuff, or getting them wrongly, directed to things that they shouldn't be doing, that is an offense. And so one can actually use COPA as a way to get them punished. So that was the context I think I was exposed to, about how COPA can be utilized even for some inappropriate online interaction with your child.
Thank you. Thanks. Shrutika, anything you wish to ask?
We are running short of time a little bit now. I would request all panelists to put some whatever resources for parents, because I think it's a minefield, and we have to keep on learning and updating. So I would request all panelists to please post some resources through which we can access all the parents. I think it has been a very good discussion. Over to you, Prajakta.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
So I quickly did a quick search on COPA. I think another big piece to it is that it imposes operators of websites and online services directed to children under 13 years of age to have, so they are basically imposing certain requirements for them to make sure they're not using their personal information and using it inappropriately. Yeah. So I can post the link for that for people to read more about it as well, and then a couple other resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. We have come to the end of the session. I thank all the panelists and the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Prajakta. Good night.
Good night.